Hello and welcome to Short Shot Archery. Anthony here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the X-Spot Pro Aerosol. This video is going to be a review and an unboxing, so you get both. So right now, I just got this in. I'm going to show you what's in the box, what comes with this aerosol, and then a week or two from now I'll do the rest of this video and I'll give you my review on this product. Of course, you get the benefit of not having to wait because you get both in one video. So I already took the liberty of cutting this open because I wanted to make sure everything was inside. So just opening this up, very interesting, at least from my perspective. This is actually by the brand Decut Archery, but it is online on Lancaster, where I purchased it from, as X-Spot. So just in case you actually want to look this up yourself, other than on Lancaster Archery Supply, look up Decut Archery. I'll put a link in the description down below. So we got a nice piece of foam there, and here we have the aerosol, nicely packaged. The first thing that caught my eye, actually, besides the aerosol itself, was this. I thought it was a CD at first, and then it dawned on me they give you an extra saw blade, because there is one already installed on the aerosol itself. So an extra saw blade, nice bonus. Let's see what else we have here. Some instructions on how to replace your saw blade, and just a user's guide on how to use this aerosol. After that, we have the power controller. So it comes with a foot pedal that plugs into the saw and of course into the wall. It runs on 110 volts and it is started and stopped by your foot. Or I guess you could technically use your hand, but you probably should have two hands on the arrow when you're cutting it. So most likely your foot. Next up, the aerosol itself. So, came out very nicely from its foam little home. Let's see. Let's take a look. As you can see, there's some feet on the bottom, so it'll rest pretty nicely on a table. Fairly heavy too. At least just from like my initial perspective. It seems fairly solid. You have the adapter in the back to plug the foot plug in and then plug it to the wall. Let's see what else we have here. There is an adjustment for adjusting in and out on how big of a space you want to place your arrow in order to cut it. So if you're looking to cut a very large arrow like a X27 from Easton, those things are giant. So you may want to give yourself more space so that you can get that arrow in there easier to cut it. Or if you're switching to outdoors and cutting something like an X10, that's a tiny little arrow. So maybe you don't want so much space there in order to cut that arrow. So that's neat, you can play around with that. Let's see, we got the motor, and then we have the length adjustment here. So we just unloosen this screw and it slides out. And then if you need to tighten it down, you just spin this knob and it tightens down the aerosol. The neat thing is that they have this little arrow here, and it indicates exactly where you're at in inches, where you need to cut. So if you want to cut your arrow to 20 inches, you can just line your arrow up, the arrow on here up with the line at 20 inches, tighten it down, and you should be ready to cut. If you want to go out really far, you're a taller shooter, you're an adult, anything along those lines, you can move the knob here. Say you want to go and cut a 32-inch arrow. You move it to 32 inches, tighten it down, and it's ready to cut. From what I can tell already, it seems pretty well built. We'll see how well it functions when I actually test it out. So there is also a micro adjust down on this end. You can micro adjust how far in and out your arrow is from the saw. So say you're tuning and you just need to go and cut off, you know, just a little bit extra. You just need a little bit more. Maybe you don't want to put a clicker extension on, or your arrows are just, you know, just a little slightly weak. Instead of changing your like macro adjust here to, you know, another spot, you can just twist the micro adjust in or out just a little bit and get that final setting for your arrow length. So I'm gonna go now and plug this in, test it out, and I'm gonna give you my feedback on how well this works, and I'll have some video showing you how it cuts and me cutting on this arrow saw, so stay tuned. So I've had the arrow saw set up now for a couple of weeks. So in this first segment, we're just going to cut two different kinds of arrows. One is going to be an X10, and the other one is going to be an Easton Eclipse shaft. It's really old, so I want to say it's like a 2112, something along those lines. Anyway, you're pretty much your standard aluminum shaft. So that way, if there's like a noise difference, you guys can hear that. You can see how easily the arrow saw cuts through the arrow itself, and I'll have the audio real close in a few of these so that you can really hear how loud it is. Okay, so here's our first test with just the arrow saw running and no arrows being cut. Alright, now let's cut some arrows. First off, we'll start with an aluminum arrow, or aluminium if you're in Europe, right? Please note, I am doing this free-handed. I'm not using the back support because I don't want to change my settings, because I am currently cutting arrows. So that was done by hand. It is very accurate and very consistent, so don't worry about the cuts I'm making. This is more for an illustration of the sound and to show you it does cut really easy. Real quick, I just want to illustrate how many arrows I actually have cut. Here's just one of my piles.
Right, second, hold on. Alright. Is this good? Or you want more?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Good?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not an arrow. So now for the final review. So the Decut arrow saw is a really nice tool. It's very adjustable. I like the options that come with it. You can micro adjust your in and out if you just need a little bit more space to cut that arrow, but you don't want to use the macro adjust and move it, you know, drastically, like a full 1/4 inch. Also, it's very nice that you can adjust the guard here. so that you don't have either too much blade exposed when you're trying to cut an arrow, or expose more blade for cutting a much thicker arrow. So that's really cool. A couple little critiques that I would personally make and would like to see as like an improvement upon this aerosol would be, number one, the a hood here. We need some kind of attachment that a vacuum can attach to suck out the carbon dust when you're cutting carbon arrows. Now, I'm not an archery shop. I pretty much just cut my arrows and sometimes my brother's, and you know, I'll probably cut a couple dozen arrows a year. But just from that alone, just from cutting those, you know, several dozen X10s or whatever a year, there's going to be a lot of carbon dust in the air, and I personally don't want to breathe that in. So I definitely recommend you should probably wear some kind of mask or be in some place that has a lot of you know, airflow. Me personally, this is in my garage. It's not attached to my house. The air's flowing in and out of here. It's pretty chilly in here right now in a short sleeve shirt. So I don't have too much of a problem. I personally would still wear a mask and definitely some eye protection. Always protect your eyes. You never know if, you know, something breaks, and that's the last thing you want happen to you, is something to fly at your face. Other than that though, I am pretty happy with it. One other thing I would like to add is I do like the foot pedal. It's nice, but there needs to be a dedicated on-off switch, because I had to keep reminding myself, don't touch the foot pedal, or because you got an arrow sitting on there that I don't want to cut yet, or, you know, if you're working somewhere where maybe there's more than one of you and somebody doesn't pay attention, they hit the foot pedal and your fingers are by the blade. That's not a really fun scenario. I feel like there should be a way to turn it off without physically unplugging it from the wall. That's just my take on it. I do think it's a pretty fantastic product for you know, the price range and what it has to offer. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed sharing with you this aerosol that I purchased from Lancaster Archery. If you want to pick one up there, I'm sure they got more. I don't know why they wouldn't. And, well, I hope you enjoyed watching. And as always, happy shooting.